Hey, good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens podcast. My name's Chad Thomas, I think, um, accompanied by Jamie Widener. But wait,
There's more.
there's more.
You're waiting for me to do something, huh?
I am, yes. But wait, there's more.
There's Kirstin.
Hey, there's Kirstin.
Hello.
Kirstin,
Hey.
welcome.
Man, I totally missed my cue on that one. Sorry, buddy.
Okay.
Uh,
You did good.
and I missed this one too.
It's all good.
So here we are. There's three of us now. We're so glad to have you with us, Kirstin, and we really appreciate you jumping in and filling that third seat. It's been empty for a long time. So, what have you? Go ahead.
Thank you guys. So there's that.
So what's been going on this week? Well, Jamie, let's start with you.
Oh, it's been a blur as usual. You know, the stuff, the things. I don't know. You really don't. You know, I think about it like 4 minutes before we come on. Like, oh, what did I do this week? And then there's just not enough to recap it all. If I can't remember like specific things, I guess that's good, right? Like nothing too high, nothing too low.
Yeah.
All the stuff in between. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's cold out now. Like apparently we've skipped fall. Like welcome to Pennsylvania, right? It's summer, then it's winter, and then there's it. So it's been too cold to do anything like outside stuff. So I've been working on indoor projects, and none of them have come to any fruition to be done yet because I have to go outside to get stuff. So yeah, we'll figure it out by the spring.
All right.
The winter lasts like 7 years here too. So
well, yeah, definitely. So
what about you guys?
Go ahead, Kirstin.
Well, it's just been a lot. Doing a lot with the baby. So going through all that. I mean, she's 4 months today, so doing something right.
Wow, that's out already. That's great.
So, and Bert's with us. He's saying hello.
Hello.
So, let's see same thing with me. Meetings, all sorts of stuff going on. The show opens this weekend that I've been working on at the high school.
That's right.
That had my first production meeting for the spring show today. So moving one right into the other.
You want to cue us on what it might be?
There might be a little bit of music about the man. So the Music Man is the spring musical. So it'll be interesting. Good old classic musical. So
it is. That's one I remember from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So I also got an email, and I want to dig into this one a little bit from one of our guests at the last investigation we did in beginning of November.
Mm-hmm.
We were upstairs, and he put his voice recorder down and has picked up apparently an EVP that he wants to share with me. So we're trying to figure out how to get the file. He's like, the email was funny because it was like, I don't remember what their names were, but the father and son team that we were working with. So I guess we stand out as that. But yeah, I'm excited. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting EVP. If it's real, it'll be pretty cool. So we'll see what happens.
All right, more to come then.
Mm-hmm. So
it must be nice to have time to get to your review.
Yeah.
In a timely manner, anyway.
Yeah, I've got stuff from I don't know how long that I haven't got to yet.
This is why you stamp everything, right? Just in case it takes too long or a while anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got so much stuff. I'm now using 2 recorders, so sad.
Yeah. So
video is easier than audio, I think. I don't know. That's seemingly, at least to my perspective. I can get through the video really quickly and efficiently, but audio, it just seems like it takes much longer. And I think it's because you have to be more attentive. I don't know, maybe not, but
you're not able to stare at a screen that could have stuff happening. It's just you have to like sit there and listen. And I mean, I have to stare blankly as I'm listening to an audio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
I've actually gone into a trance listening to some audio before.
Oh yeah,
because it's just sleeping, Chad. It's you've not at all.
You call it sleep. I call it a trance. There's a difference. So,
fair enough.
So, But anyway, anything else major before we jump into the topic for this week?
No, I'm really excited to get to it. I'm happy Kirstin's with us, so let's go.
So, Kirstin, if you ever have any questions in the middle of it, just stop us and we'll stop for a quick discussion. But here we go.
All right.
So a few weeks ago, I introduced everybody to the historic triangle, and I talked about Jamestown and how it was the beginning of our story, how our founding fathers landed in Virginia, created the first permanent settlement, and we talked about the struggles they endured. We had the environment, we had illnesses, and then we had the struggles that they created themselves with the Native Americans. So we jumped from those beginnings in Jamestown to a new beginning in Yorktown, which this was the important port because it was where the battle, the change in the Revolutionary War happened. That's where the British eventually surrendered to the colonial army. What happened in the time between Jamestown and Yorktown is what we want to focus the paranormal lens on tonight. The best part about tonight's topic is that it's a city where the 18th century isn't just something you study in a book. It's something you can still walk through together. A city shaped by indigenous nations, colonial ambition, revolutionary decline, rediscovery, and restoration. And somehow, after hundreds of years of change, Williamsburg still feels like it remembers everything. So today we're going to travel through time from the Powhatan Confederacy to the founding of the College of William and Mary, to the political drama of the American Revolution, the quiet years that followed, and finally the incredible restoration that turned Williamsburg into one of the world's largest living history museums. Long before the English built Jamestown or dreamed of a colonial capital, the land around Williamsburg was home to the Powhatan Confederacy, a vast alliance of more than 30 Algonquian-speaking tribes. To understand Williamsburg, we need to start here. Because this place wasn't a blank map when Europeans arrived. It was alive with activity. The land was rich. The climate supported crops like corn, beans, and squash.
Let me hold on to you there for a second.
I saw.
Yeah, you've been a bit muffled for a little while. I thought it was just my end, but
okay. Is that better?
Oh, it's way better.
Okay.
Could you just start all of that all over again?
Yeah.
How far?
From the top.
From the top.
Yeah, you might have to. I'm sorry. Right. It's been a minute.
All right. So a few weeks ago, I introduced. I can't say it this time. I introduced you to the historic triangle. I talked about Jamestown and how it was the beginning of our story. How our founding fathers landed in Virginia and created the first permanent settlement in what would be the United States. And we talked about the struggles it endured, the environment and the illnesses, and the ones they created for themselves with the Native Americans. We jumped from those beginnings in Jamestown to new beginnings in Yorktown. This important port became an important part of our Revolutionary War. The Battle of Yorktown is what caused the British to surrender. Now, what happened in the time between Jamestown and Yorktown is what we're going to focus our paranormal lens on tonight. The best part about tonight's topic is that it's a city where the 18th century isn't something you study in a book. It's something you can still walk through. A city shaped by indigenous nations, colonial ambition, revolutionary decline, rediscovery, and restoration. And somehow, after hundreds of years of change, Williamsburg still feels like it remembers everything. Tonight, we're going to travel through time from the Powhatan Confederacy to the founding of the College of William and Mary, to the political drama of the American Revolution, the quiet years that followed, and finally, the incredible restoration that turned Williamsburg into one of the world's largest living history museums. Long before the English built Jamestown or dreamed of a colonial capital, the land around Williamsburg was the home to the Powhatan Confederacy, a vast alliance of more than 30 Algonquian-speaking tribes. To understand Williamsburg, we need to start here, because this place wasn't a blank map when Europeans arrived. It was alive with activity, the land was rich, the climate supported crops like corn, beans, and squash. Rivers brought fish and trade, trails connected villages, and the people who lived here had deep ties to the environment and one another. We talked about how Jamestown had struggled. disease, contaminated water, and periodic famine made life difficult. So colonists began to explore the higher ridge of land to the north, healthier, cooler, and safer. In 1632, they established Middle Plantation, a fortified settlement between the James and York rivers. It wasn't a bustling town but more like a strategic outpost with a fort, a few homes, and open land. By 1693, something truly significant happened. The founding of the College of William and Mary. Named for the ruling monarchs of England, it was only the second college in the colonies. Harvard was the first. The college became an intellectual engine for the young colony. Imagine a small ridge in the wilderness suddenly becoming a center of learning. Students, of whom would go on to become presidents, walking the same paths people walk today. I just can't imagine that in the middle of nowhere, this college popped up. It seems pretty intriguing. So, Middle Plantation was still quiet, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. A few weeks ago, I discussed how in 1698, the State House in Jamestown burned down. Fires were not unusual. Jamestown had burned multiple times, but this fire became a turning point. Leaders began to ask, why rebuild again in a swamp-prone, difficult location when a higher, healthier, more central settlement already exists? Just 1 year later, in 1699, they made a monumental decision. Middle Plantation was renamed Williamsburg after King William III and became the capital of the colony of Virginia. Suddenly, everything changed. Government buildings rose along the new main street, which was Duke of Gloucester Street. Taverns filled with merchants, politicians, and students. Craftsmen set up shop. Mansions were built. The wealthy elite created a sophisticated social world. There were balls, horse races, elaborate dinners, and political debate. This wasn't just a town, it was the center of power in the largest and most influential colony in the British America. The capital housed the House of Burgesses, the first elected legislative body in the New World. Inside, discussions took place that helped define early American political identity. The governor's palace became a symbol of royal authority, grand, polished, and intimidating. The governor's residence reflected the empire's reach, yet it stood in a town that would eventually help break free from that empire. Williamsburg was alive, influential, and at its peak. By the 1760s, Williamsburg became a hotbed of revolutionary spirit. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Act, and the Tea Act, each new British law sparked anger and debate. Williamsburg's educated elite and fiery orators gathered in taverns and private homes to argue about rights, representation, and liberty. And then, in April 1775, an event called the Gunpowder Incident ignited tensions. Royal Governor Lord Dunmore secretly removed gunpowder from the colony's magazine. Word spread quickly, and armed militia confronted the British authorities. It didn't erupt into a full-scale violence, but it came close. The message was clear. Virginia was on the edge. By 1776, the colony formally joined the revolution. Williamsburg no longer represented royal power. It represented resistance. But something else was happening too. As the war intensified, Williamsburg's position, low-lying and close to the coast, felt dangerously exposed. In 1780, Thomas Jefferson and other leaders approved the relocation of the capital to Richmond, and with that decision, Williamsburg's golden era ended. Once the government left, Williamsburg settled into a long period of slow decline. The town didn't vanish, but its political and economic importance waned. Homes aged, businesses closed, some colonial buildings fell into disrepair. Others were modified or replaced. Life became quieter, more rural. During the Civil War, Williamsburg saw fighting during the Battle of Williamsburg in 1862, but the town wasn't destroyed, and many historic structures survived simply because no one had the money or reason to dramatically change them. By the early 1900s, Williamsburg was a sleepy, modest southern town, anchored mostly by the College of William and Mary. No one could have predicted what would happen next. In the 1920s, Reverend Goodwin, rector of the Bruton Parish Church, had a vision. He wanted to restore Williamsburg's historic buildings, not as relics, but as a living reminder of the colonial past. And he didn't just dream, he acted. He meticulously studied the town's history, tracked down old maps and documents, and began restoring buildings one by one. But he needed more resources. Enter John D. Rockefeller Jr., one of the wealthiest men in America. Goodwin convinced Rockefeller that Williamsburg wasn't just a town, it was a national treasure. Together, they launched one of the most ambitious historic preservation projects in the world. Over decades, more than 80 original buildings were restored, and hundreds more were reconstructed, based on archaeology and research. Electric poles were buried, streets were redesigned, costume interpreters were hired, entire trades, blacksmithing, carpentry, wig making, were revived. This wasn't just a restoration, it was a resurrection, and it transformed Williamsburg into an internationally known center for history and education. Today, Williamsburg stands at the heart of the historic triangle, along with Jamestown and Yorktown. Colonial Williamsburg spans more than 300 acres of living history. The College of William and Mary thrives as one of the nation's premier universities. Modern neighborhoods, restaurants, parks, and cultural sites surround the historic core. Yet all the growth and tourism, Williamsburg still maintains its sense of presence, its memory. Walking down Duke of Gloucester Street, you're not just exploring buildings, you're stepping into centuries of layered human experience. And that's what makes Williamsburg so remarkable. It's a city that refuses to forget and invites you to remember along with it. I'm sure you both know how much I enjoy history, so you can understand why I like to spend time in colonial Williamsburg. There are actually 3 reasons. Immersing myself in living history is an amazing experience. I enjoy walking down the street and having George Washington or Thomas Jefferson tip their hat to me, walking in a restaurant that is set up like it might have been in the colonial days, serving colonial foods, being sat with complete strangers and talking about the happenings, taking part in a trial at the House of Burgess, or stopping in to see any of the trade shops and see how things were constructed or built in those days. Every time I visit, I learn something new. Another reason is my best friend from my childhood settled in Williamsburg to raise his family, so I usually have a place to stay whenever I want to visit. But the third thing is the ghost tours. I have lost count of the amount of ghost tours I've done in Williamsburg. The interesting thing is that the tours are never completely the same. I asked my tour guide the last time I was there, and she explained that they have a logbook of experiences that people have recorded. The guides learn several of the experiences and share them with the tour, and the guides rotate so the odds of getting the same guide are slim. One thing to remember when booking a tour is to make sure that you are booking through the official Colonial Williamsburg Center. The main reason for this is they are the only tour guides that are allowed to enter the buildings with their tours. Picture this. You're walking with your group down the cobblestone sidewalks. There is no automobile traffic. The horse-drawn carriages have been retired for the night. Your group is led by a guide who carries a single lantern illuminated by a candle. You walk up to a colonial house. The large front door squeaks as you enter. The house is illuminated by the soft glow of candles as you are ushered into the parlor. You see the home in a different, softer light, and your guide tells you of things that happened here over the years. It is such an amazing experience that I suggest everyone take a road trip and spend a day or 2 there. We are actually coming up on one of the best times to do that. In winter, Colonial Williamsburg puts on its festive decorations and celebrates with grand illuminations. The nighttime streets are lit with wood braziers. The skies come alive with fireworks on certain nights. So it's a really, really cool experience. Now, I know that this isn't called the pyrotechnic lens, so maybe I should move on to some stories about the paranormal. Williamsburg isn't just a historical city. It's one of the most haunted places in Virginia. For hundreds of years, people have shared stories of strange lights, phantom footsteps, shadowy figures, and voices that don't belong to the living. So let's take a look at a few of Williamsburg's most enduring paranormal legends, stories that linger just as strongly as the history itself. So we're going to start in the Governor's Palace. The Governor's Palace is grand in daylight, but at night it's an entirely different world. Several caretakers, night guards, and reenactors have reported the same chilling experience. Soft footsteps on the grand stairway long after the building is closed. Some hear women whispering, always near the upper landing. Others describe the unmistakable sound of someone running up the steps, even though no one is there. One recurring report is especially unsettling, a faint but distant sound of weeping. Some say the phenomenon traces back to a fire in 1781, when the building was used as a hospital. Dozens of wounded soldiers were trapped inside when flames spread through the structure. Their final screams were said to echo through the night. Today, many believe the haunting is tied to that tragedy, those who died suddenly, violently, and far away from home. The next one is the Bruton Parish Church. Bruton Parish Church is one of the oldest buildings in Williamsburg, but age isn't the most mysterious feature. For decades, local residents have claimed to hear the church organ playing late at night when the building is locked and empty. No rehearsal, no services, no visitors. Just the slow, deliberate notes of hymns drifting through the dark. One former sexton reported unlocking the church after hearing the organ from outside, only to find the sanctuary completely silent. When he mentioned it to a longtime parishioner, they simply nodded and said, "Ah, you heard him." Who him is remains unknown, but the organist seemed content to play anonymously for eternity. We'll move on to the Wythe House. The Wythe House is elegant and peaceful today, but its past holds a tragic story. In 1781, General George Wythe's home was used as the headquarters for George Washington during the Yorktown campaign. But the haunting is believed to come from years earlier, tied to Anne Skipwith, a young woman who died suddenly. Visitors speak of a woman's figure descending the staircase, sometimes in full 18th century dress, sometimes only as a passing shadow. Some claim to hear her soft, hurried footsteps, as though she is preparing for a journey she never finished. Her story remains partly hidden. Her presence, many say, does not. The Duke of Gloucester Street. If you walk Williamsburg's main street at night, especially in the colder months, you may hear stories of the lost traveler, a man who appears to modern visitors as a confused, pale figure wearing outdated clothing. He reportedly asks for directions, but before an answer is given, he fades away. Some believe he's the spirit of a colonial man who died while traveling between taverns. Others think he's a remnant of the many soldiers who marched through the city during the Revolution. Whoever he is, he seems politely trapped between then and now. I'm going to wrap this up with stories from my favorite property, and this one I have several for. It's the Peyton Randolph House, and it's Williamsburg's most haunted home. Of all Williamsburg's haunted location, the Peyton Randolph House may be the most intense. Over a long history, the home saw a series of sudden deaths, accidents, and unexplained tragedies. And today it's known for producing aggressive physical encounters, rare in most hauntings, but reported here again and again. Visitors feeling pushed or tugged, cold spots that move through rooms like invisible fingers, full-bodied apparitions appearing at doorways, dark shadows drifting across windows even when the house is empty. One interpreter described feeling a hand firmly grasp her shoulder, only to turn around and see no one. Another reported seeing a man in colonial clothing standing at the end of the hallway, who vanished as she approached. During the 1960s and 1970s, the house was used for lodging. The opportunity to stay in an authentic 18th century home was an opportunity that some people couldn't turn down, or so they thought. Most people couldn't spend an entire night there. The book, Hauntings of Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Jamestown by Jackie Eileen Behrend, tells us the story of Howard Kidman. Mr. Kidman had booked the lodging in the house in the fall of 1968. Mr. Kidman reported that he was resting comfortably when he was awakened by the strange feeling that someone was tugging on his arm. Waking up, he assumed that he had been dreaming, so he rolled over and went back to sleep. A bit later, he woke, startled. This time, he was being shaken violently. It only took a few moments for his eyes to adjust to the dark, and he realized that he was completely alone. Mr. Kidman tells us that he darted out of bed and ran as fast as he could. He refused to go back to even collect the things that he had left there. We can look at this and say, wow, a documented history from 57 years ago. But we have an even older one that probably is one of the best and most credible witnesses to discuss the spirits of the Peyton Randolph House. The Marquis de Lafayette. He stayed in the home during his return to Williamsburg in 1824. He wrote of his ghostly encounter in a letter to a friend. He stated, "I considered myself fortunate to lodge in the home of a great man, Peyton Randolph. I remembered it to be a fine and elegantly decorated building in which I looked forward to residing while in Williamsburg. Upon my arrival, as I entered through the foyer, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It nudged me as if intending to keep me from entering. I quickly turned but found no one there. The nights were not restful, as the sounds of voices kept me awake for most of my stay." This documentation is pretty interesting, but for me, the best story comes from a former security guard named Pedro Jones. Mr. Jones worked for the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation in the 1970s. His job was to make sure that all buildings were secured and all candles had been extinguished. He entered the Peyton Randolph house through the back door. After clearing the first and second floors, he went to the basement to make sure it was secure. This was used for a break room for the interpreters, and a magazine on the table caught his attention. After looking at the magazine, he headed up the steps to exit the building. Halfway up the steps, he realized that he had not turned the lights off, and there was no switch at the top of the steps to do that. He went back down and turned off the lights. Halfway up the steps again, he heard what he described as a moaning sound, and he couldn't move his feet off the steps. He could move the rest of his body. His first instinct was that someone was there with him, and he went to pull his service weapon, only to realize that he was alone and that he may injure himself, so he decided to reholster his weapon. Unable to move his feet, he used his radio to call for help. It was a very long 3 to 4 minutes before his lieutenant arrived. When his supervisor knocked on the door, his feet were released. He rushed up the steps and opened the door. The lieutenant was standing on the other side, and he took one look at him and said he looked white as snow. Now, Mr. Jones is a dark-skinned African American. They and several other people searched the house and found nothing amiss. It took him 3 to 4 weeks for him to go back inside that house. Even skeptics admit something is very strange here. Mr. Jones's story is available to watch on YouTube, and I will share the link in the chat and in the show notes later. There are many, many stories, but I know Mr. Dills is on next week, and I didn't want to go 2 hours tonight. So I'll wrap it up with this. History leaves marks, some physical, some emotional, some maybe something else. In Williamsburg, the past is more than preserved. For many, it's still very much alive. Maybe that's why the city feels different when the sun goes down. Softer, quieter, but never truly empty. What we do know is this: wherever human stories run deep, love, loss, war, hope, echoes tend to linger. Whether those echoes belong to memory or something standing just behind the veil, it's up to you to decide. But before we talk about this, let me share some of my sources. As I mentioned earlier, The Hauntings of Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Jamestown by Jackie Ellen Bedrin. The Colonial, www.colonialwilliamsburg.org /about/history of Colonial Williamsburg. www.williamsburgva.gov /488 encyclopediavirginia.org /entries /colonial Williamsburg. www.wm.edu /about /history and www.timsullian.wordpress.com. So quite a bit there, guys. What do you think?
Kirstin, you want to go?
It's very interesting. I mean, the last house you talked about, that I've had experiences of getting frozen in place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's terrifying. And I understand completely why it took him a good few years to go back in.
Yeah, I've heard that story from multiple people, and then I found this YouTube video of it, and to see him tell it,
I definitely want to see that video now.
he was startled.
Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, it does. Anytime you have an experience that is beyond what you've done, something that you've been touched, you've been stopped, any of that stuff, it is deeply off-putting, because it's not normal, and well, that makes it paranormal, right? But that happening, is unexpected. It's not, it's different when you have somebody in front of you, that you
Mm-hmm.
see them moving towards you, there's contact coming, but when you can't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and restricted motion, that's a huge thing, and uh, it is one of those moments that really will freak you out, because you don't know when it's going to end, if it's
Right.
going to end. And luckily he had a radio. I'm not sure he was in shouting distance to anybody otherwise, but that knock at the door was seemingly the catalyst to release the situation he was in. But
Well,
if he didn't have the radio, who knows what could have happened.
and you have to remember, he's now turned the lights off.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
much more so, right?
he's in the
Expecting to be on his
complete
way.
dark. Yeah, like they're he's
Kind of like that.
yeah.
No,
So,
not cool.
that house is one of the most amazing houses there, and it is one of the original houses. Not all the structures are original. Some of them have been reconstructed, but that is an original house. Last time I was there and did a ghost tour was after I've started figuring out some of my sensitivities, and I could definitely feel that and I told the interpreters this, that the spirits that were there were liking the way that they were being talked about. It was with respect. It wasn't just to tell ghost stories, but it was being respectful, telling the history and sharing all that as well. And the interpreter I was talking to said, "Well, that makes me really feel good, because I never know, you never know. You're like, are you upsetting these spirits or not?"
Mm-hmm.
So it
Right.
was really cool to be able to share that, and it was fun. It was a great experience.
Absolutely. Well, let me slide back here to a comment from Bert. It sounds like we have a tour guide for this road trip.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And
I'd be happy.
Todd came behind it with a couple bells. Way to go, Todd. And indeed we do.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a comment here that's when the paranormal gets real for people, especially for non-believers.
Mm-hmm.
Situation being in that stuck situation. And there's a comment from Todd. We have been to Williamsburg one time many moons ago before we started investigating. We need to go back for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. That's
I need to
all
go
of
there
us.
now.
Yeah.
Well, the sort
We
of
could be there in like a couple hours. It's not that far.
it's about 5.5 hours. The sad part sort of is there's no real place to investigate in Colonial Williamsburg.
Right.
And I understand that, because if they opened it up to one person, they'd have to open it up to everybody.
Mhm.
And it just, you don't want to disrespect that. You don't want to, I don't think it's quite like Gettysburg, where you could walk around this with a voice recorder and an EVP, then you're not going to get in trouble for that. But
Right.
you can't go into a building and investigate. So
Still, I think it would just be cool to go down there. I mean, like you said, when you were doing ghost tours, you were still getting that energy and stuff. And I think it'd be just interesting to go see.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're sensitive, you can't stop investigating when you're in, what I like.
Yeah.
So you definitely have that interaction, and it's really cool. So
I too was there many moons ago, and I'll come clean on this one. My senior class trip in high school was to Williamsburg. That was not the last time I was there, but that was the first time.
Okay.
And it left a mark on me because we had to eat peanut soup for dinner, and I've never forgotten it.
Uh-huh.
Whew, there's something.
It's
Be glad I didn't have an allergy. Would have been a way to find out, right?
uh-huh.
But it was as a high school kid, senior high school kid, history even then was a very much of an interest to me, and never having growing up on the East Coast, you have colonial history. It's us. That
Right.
is us, and you don't get to see it though, other than old buildings anywhere else. Here, it's culture. It's immersive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really besides the peanut soup, that's really what stuck to me was the depth, and everybody, and obviously guests are separate from this, but everybody who is working is on, and
Right.
it was fascinating to come across folks, just in the streets and, people in character, of course, but coming to them and they just strike up a conversation with you like you're one of them in their era and their time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool.
Yeah.
And going back as an adult, much later, the experience we had was over a weekend. So like a Sunday morning, we got to go over to William and Mary's chapel, and there was an organ playing session of the original piece that was still there from back in the day whenever the chapel was built,
Mm-hmm.
a couple hundred years ago. And it was moving. It was really cool. And the place was full. And this is one of those churches, we align our pews now to face the altar. They are aligned on the walls. So everybody had to turn and
Mm-hmm.
pivot to see the altar. It was
Mm-hmm.
really neat to see that because it hadn't been refurbished to a modernization.
Right.
But going to the point of, that's the whole gist of that's off campus, if you will, from
Right.
technical Williamsburg, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still part of it. It's all of it is wrapped together
Mm-hmm.
as history should.
And you talk about the seats there in Bruton Parish. It's the seating is like stalls. Like you had each family had their own stall.
Yes. Yep. I know
So you
that.
would walk in, and some of the people would be facing the front of the church, and the rest of the people would be facing the back of the church.
Right.
Because that's how the seats were. And in the winter, they would put a little heater in the middle of your stall because it was so cold. It's and I know you at one point you were interested in archaeology, if I remember correctly, Jamie.
True.
There are times when you can go down to Williamsburg and they are working on a dig because they've discovered something new, and they will actually they get to a point where they'll actually let teenagers get in and help dig. They won't let adults do that, but
it's not fun.
Yeah. It would. I just think that'd be so cool. It'd be such a great experience. I've taken the kids, and we've done the court, in the House of Burgesses. So many people. They fill that place up, and the first 25 people are sitting in the court.
Yeah.
Up in the seats of they're the court members, and then you've got the people who are in the house, and they're told what part of the story to tell, and it becomes interactive. And some of the places you're given a card, and here's your story, interpreted for the rest of the people, and it's really cool. I've been down on President's Day, and you have George Washington speak, you have Thomas Jefferson's, because they've learned these parts. The guy who plays Thomas Jefferson is just amazing. He's well known around the world. And it's more than that too. It's museums, it's art museums, it's all that sort of thing. And that
Exactly.
energy is just in that whole town. So
And I guess I want to note this too, with respects to the paranormal, and specifically to the paranormal. You were noting, several times there were folks in period clothing being seen, and this is the one place where
Mhm.
seeing someone in period clothing doesn't seem off. Like, why aren't there modern ghosts? Is what we get all the time.
Right.
Why isn't somebody wearing Chuck Taylors? Right.
Mhm.
So here, at least even the ghosts are in period
Right.
costume. So, but and that makes it seem more sensical to the experience you're having as well, because even though time has moved on, like the city, the town, whatever this is. I mean, whatever the municipality actually is, whatever it's called. But it has obviously modernized. The things around Colonial Williamsburg is very current. You have everything you have everywhere else there. But once you step in the gates, inside the facility that it is, you go back, definitely way back. So, even there, that's cool. So.
And there's people who live in the Colonial. There's some of the houses are still private residences.
Yep.
Most of the Colonial houses have been bought by the foundation, and as they're being sold, the foundation buys them up. But there's some people who still live there. They can't park their car near their house. They have to walk in and out, or there's certain times like after 10 p.m. you might be able to get your car in to get groceries and stuff. But it's I can't imagine living in that sort of place. So
it's a choice. I mean, it's no different than living in like Lancaster City, for example, the Hager building right next to Central Market. It is locked and fenced. It's in a city block. There is no parking garage there, so you have to literally park your car in a lot somewhere else. And there are days when Market Alley is closed because Market's open, and the pylons pop up, and there's no access to drive up to your door to drop your stuff off. So it's a choice, and it's one many people make because they want to be at the place.
Right.
And I wouldn't argue somebody who had the opportunity to live in Colonial Williamsburg.
No, I think that's more what I was saying is I can't imagine like that would just be such an experience.
Yes, agreed.
So
absolutely.
At one point it was my goal to retire there and either become a volunteer or all those tradesmen that you see, like the gunsmiths, the woodworkers, they all go through an apprentice program and become master craftsmen. It's a multi-year program, and you start out as an apprentice, and you do what an apprentice would have done back in the 1700s, and you're sweeping the shop, and you're doing the rough hewn work and handing it off to the master. So
wow. Well,
there's still time.
Life goals, right? Life goals.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool. Let's catch up to a couple comments that have come by. We were chatting. Back to this one from Todd, investigating in the streets. So,
there's a big oak tree that I've sat under before.
You've talked about this.
Recorder,
yes. Yep. And let's see, Todd has commented, Bert has commented that, I can't turn Heather off. I think I understand. Todd, oh my, peanut soup. Yeah, that's what I said too. It really, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't bad. It was not at all. And in fact, there's a local restaurant that has something similar to it that I've enjoyed ever since. So it was just strange in the moment.
And you can buy it in a bag to bring home and make. Yeah. I'll get you one next time I'm there, Jamie.
Let's not get too excited about that.
No.
Bert said, I've been to Williamsburg twice, but never to the Colonial part. Well, you're due, sir. You are very overdue. And then that gets us caught up. Okay.
So, and the cool thing about it is the Williamsburg Foundation, you can go there and you can buy a multi-day pass, or, you can buy a historic triangle pass. And that allows you to go in the buildings and see the tradesmen and the craftsmen and stuff like that. But you don't need to do that to walk down the streets. Like if you just want to go look at the buildings and take it in, go to the restaurants, you don't need a pass to go in there. It's just anywhere where there's active interpreters working. You need that to go in and see what they're doing. But it's truly an amazing museum. So what do you guys think? Paranormal?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with respects to time and activity, we'd say this every week, where there's passion, there's energy, and energy, there's activity. There's decades, centuries now, of passion there. And therefore I can't imagine it's not. The stories you've shared are compelling. I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg, as far as what's documented and undocumented, the anecdotal things. So I can't imagine not. I mean, I like to go find out for myself, and that's
absolutely.
That's the thing. But like with everything, regardless of what the stories are, everybody should experience a place. But I think so. I think it's active.
Yeah.
Bert's in the same spirit, pun intended. Got to be paranormal there. Kirstin, what do you think?
I 100% feel like it's paranormal. I mean, like you said, the history, the passion that's been put there, the energy. I believe energy can be left anywhere to start something paranormal. So I very much think so.
Yeah.
All right. We need a road trip.
Yes.
That one's a pretty easy one to do. So
yeah, we can all crash at Scott's, right?
Yeah, he wouldn't mind.
Why not? Oh, the perks of having friends in the area. There you go. That's nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, and we bring the Lynches along. We all just crash in an Airbnb somewhere or a VRBO or one of those things. So we figured that out at Tala. That was great.
There was plenty of opportunities down there. So
yeah. And the thing is, I guess that it's not in the middle of nowhere. It is really not far off the 95 corridor. It's really in a very progressive area. I do know that in that general region, though, the speed limit is highly enforced. I can tell you from my older life experience there.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go buzzing through. Take your time. But
no,
plenty of things to see and do outside as well.
Yeah, especially if the speed limit's 70. If you get caught breaking that, it's a very expensive. Like it's get a lawyer before you leave the state. Is what people tell you now.
Noted.
And from there's a long converted rail trail that's a bike trail. I think that goes from Richmond into Williamsburg.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So there are plenty of opportunities.
All right. There's some more comments here to catch up. Todd says, we'll be shocked if it wasn't paranormal. Carmela says we're in. And if Carmela says so, it's going to happen. So I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heather has added, Chad, you can tell how much you enjoyed going there. You light up talking about it. I bet you could talk about it for hours.
Exactly. I feel that that's another one of those places that I have ties to from before this life. Yeah.
And then last comment here, Bert says, how many passenger van do I need to rent?
I think you might be at a minibus at this point, Bert.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes.
The paranormal bus we keep talking about. It's finally happening.
The Parabus.
The Parabus. Yep. Which I agree with Heather. It's clear. I felt the same way, and I'm not stepping here to take it away, but I felt the same way doing the episode on Harper's Ferry. In West Virginia. That's my place that I love. I've been going there since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Every chance I can, I go. Every time I go, I learn something different about it, and the history in that area and that tri-state region. There is so much depth there. And, obviously Williamsburg has the same.
Yep.
There's a comment to adjust to the speeding. Yeah. Ty says, LOL, yeah, Virginia don't play with speeding. They do not.
Nope.
I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the police car they didn't have the actual book to throw at you.
Right. And you have to remember, Virginia also is the place where radar detectors are illegal.
Yes.
They have the radar detectors. So,
goodness.
Yep.
Well, don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
Exactly.
Or pay the fine, I guess, either way.
Yeah. So, on our trip to Florida in a couple of weeks, I'm going to tell Alex, don't speed through Virginia.
Yep. It's going to take all day no matter what. It's going to take longer when you get pulled over.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's all I have on Williamsburg. Like Heather said, I could talk for hours, but
All right. Well, we'll be respectful of time. No problem.
Yeah.
Let's see what we've got coming up then. And next week, here he is, our good friend Steve Dills. We're calling it an evening with Steve Dills. He's with Transcend Paranormal down in the greater Richmond area. So he's a local to Williamsburg and the Triangle, as well as a lot of other places in the area. Transcend is a great team that covers a lot of territory in Southern Virginia. The Hanover Tavern is their home base. So we're going to let Steve talk about just about anything he wants. I've got a few things I'd like him to queue up to him. Mm-hmm. But we're going to just hit play and see what happens next week. So we joke a lot. It could go hours, and it might, because it has. This will be his third visit with us. But use the restroom first, get a snack, get a beverage, and to settle in somewhere comfy, and we'll let it play out, see how it goes.
Yep.
Then after that, we have another week with guests from Ron and Lourdes with TDSE, or the Digital Seance Experience. We haven't seen them for a little while now. I think the last time they were with us, we did the Queen Mary episode back in season 2. So it's been a minute, and we ran into them in Gettysburg over the summer at the Bash, but we haven't had much time to have a conversation for a while. So they're overdue, and they've been with us before. And same as Steve, we're gonna let them do whatever they want to talk about. So got a few questions to see where they are with progress on TDSE and all their breakthroughs there. But otherwise, this could go anywhere. So anything paranormal is on the table. So we'll see how it goes. And then following that, on the December 9th, we're going to do our third volume of Urban Legends. We have a special guest there, Corey Asperl, a local guy, a friend of mine, who is always asking, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And so, he said, hey, Corey, come on, come on the show. Let's let you do it. So he's excited. I talked to him today, actually, a little bit about it. So, but that's to come. And then December 16th, coming off of Chad's vacation, Chad will be off air next week. So hopefully we can make all this work. It's no pressure, right? But so far it's working. So, hey. But with that, we're going to have an update on his trip. Plus, I believe there's a side trip to St. Augustine to the lighthouse. So that's why it's the topic.
Yeah, there is.
Tickets were printed last time we talked. So, okay. And then coming up behind that, right before Christmas, I'm going to cover the glowing people of Barranco de Bajos, which is in Spain, and quite an interesting tale there. I won't tell too much yet. It's so far out, we might forget about it by then anyway.
Or Jamie, we might reschedule that one because Kirstin's got to get a turn.
That's true. We can.
I mean, the 23rd is also the day before my birthday, so.
Oh, well. We could sing. Happy Birthday, the whole episode.
Please don't.
Okay.
Well, we'll figure that one out, and so there may be updates to the schedule. You know how we are.
Yeah, we're flexible. So yes, it's yours if you wish it. No problem there.
All
right. And then we have one more upcoming event for Jotnick's Paranormal at Booby's Brewery in Mount Joy, PA. It's going to be on December 6th. So that's a few weeks out yet. We got to get through Thanksgiving first, but tickets are still available. And but this will be our last investigation at this location. We are stepping out as the host team. I don't know that there is a replacement or a substitute team for us, someone else coming behind, so there might be a lull there. But if you've never been and you're interested in doing, now is the time, just to be safe. And tickets are available at boobiesbrewery.com. That's BUBES, not the other way. You'll get something uniquely different if you type that into your browser. Just so you know. Not safe for work. And once you get there, just go to the events tab and you'll find tickets available. All right. And lastly, obviously you found us here tonight, either live on Facebook or YouTube or later on the streaming services. But if you'd like to touch base with us or check in, our website is JOTT-NYX. It's NYXparanormal.com. So JOT-NYX Paranormal. And then you can always send us an email at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. We all see that. So if you have any interest in an upcoming episode or something, a comment about an episode you've seen from us already, just feel free to drop us a line. We're very responsive. We'll get right back to you. And all of our stuff for Jotnick's and for Paranormal Lens is available on Linktree, which is linktr.ee and then /paranormal lens, all spelled out. You'll find all our cool socials and stuff there. There's already a store set up if you're interested in some paranormal Christmas presents. We got you covered. All that good stuff, all on Linktree. And that should cover it.
Yeah.
A few more comments have popped in here. Let me jump to those quick so we don't miss anybody. And scroll up. Yep, there we go. So Todd has said, very nice conversation and history on Williamsburg. Hope you all have a great rest of the week. Thank you, sir, and you as well. And Bert has said, Chad, when in St. Augustine, you need to check out Happy Pappy's Glowing Balls. He gives a shot of alcohol with each purchase.
Okay.
All right. Pappy's glowing ball. I can't just not say that one more time. All right. And another comment from Todd. That's sad. Glad we have the opportunity to investigate with you all. Yeah, we're so happy you guys could make it to that time. It was great.
Yeah.
So we will see you all somewhere along the way, though, Todd and Carmela.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we need to get over to White Hill with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I wanna get back in that bathtub at White Hill.
Yep, it's definitely an experience.
That was an experience.
Totally understand that. And then see if we can keep all the paintings and pictures on the walls in the speakeasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have not yet. I mean, the year's basically over here. Now we're at the end of this in mid-December or mid-November. I'm sorry. So we probably won't make it this year yet, but I cannot believe we didn't make it. That's how busy we've been this year, I guess, to say that. But man, we're overdue. We have to book twice next year to make up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
All right.
So, well, do you guys have anything else before I wrap us up here?
I don't. Go ahead.
All right.
No.
So as we wrap up tonight's journey through the haunted streets and historic echoes of Williamsburg, one thing becomes clear. The past never fully lets go. Every creaking floorboard, every lantern-lit alley, and every whispered legend reminds us that history is alive, sometimes more than you expect. Thank you for joining us this deep dive into one of America's most spirited towns. And until next time, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night.